let's talk about manipulating using these different tools. We talked about Google, we talked about Wikipedia and encyclopedias, we talked about the different kinds of sources that we have in the library. Let's engage with them a little bit more now. Let's start manipulating them just to give you a sense of what is the best way or the appropriate way of using and quoting from these different sources. So let's do that. I'm going to keep with my example of motivation, which we used previously. So, hey, I'm just going to go here to the library website, and I'm going to do a very simple discovery search on motivation. There we go. We had that earlier. Boom. So we talked about the formats already. So I'm going to click through here straight on the academic articles. And yeah, I still get 2 million, over 2 million of them, almost 3 million. So I could use the other limiters here to select a language or a place where it was published, or actually use tags, which are an interesting way to limit your search. These are additional words that you could add to the search box to get less results, but more precise results. And so the idea here is as you're using the tool, you're trying to find the right combination of words that will give you a result set that is meaningful for your paper. So usually it involves using the knowledge you gained from reading the encyclopedia entries, your textbook, discussions in class, reading material in class, to try to articulate a thesis statement or a search phrase that will give you results that are meaningful for your people. So it's a bit of a, it's a bit of an art to do this. You kind of have to look at articles that seem relevant and fish for the words and put them in the search box and try to do a few searches iteratively, by trial and error to get to a nice, decent result set. Or you could do what some people do, which is just use a few of the ones that seem relevant from this page, and then go from there to dig deeper by redoing the search with words from the articles that you liked on this page. So there's a few ways to doing this. And maybe another kind of interesting one is looking at the journal title from where these academic papers were published, and maybe focusing on a few of these academic journals, the results of which, assuming that, let's say you're interested in, motivation in marketing, well, maybe you want to use the Journal of Marketing, or maybe if you have a human relations angle to motivation, maybe you want to focus on these human relations ones. So there are different ways to go from a really large result set and focusing in on academic articles or peer-reviewed articles or scholarly articles by using one of these various limiters or by adding keywords to your search box. I mean, there are different ways to do it, and it really depends on your topic. And if you have any questions with that, please, please, please contact the good people at the Ask a Librarian service. We're ready to answer your calls there and then, and I'll give you the link at the end of this video. So I'm just looking at these different hits. Let's just add a few, just because I want to highlight, without necessarily looking at the topics, I just want to highlight how I would engage with these sources, right? So notice here that I have an action that I could do, which is place it in a folder. And most article databases have this option of placing in a folder. Why is that useful? Well, because you could pick your favorite ones and add them to your basket. And when you're done going through the results set, you could go back to the top of the page and look, I've saved my 4 favorite items, right? And this becomes almost your bibliography. Look at that, right? These are the 4 academic articles that I selected from the academic journal called Human Relations. And there's a couple of things I could do here. For example, I could export to Refworks. Refworks is a bibliographic management system. It allows you to upload records from databases on the web or from the library so that you don't have to manually create your bibliography at the end of your paper. The goal here is to automate the process. And the tool that we've selected at Concordia University Libraries for you is called Refworks. We pay for this tool, but it's free for you to use. And so there are other tools out there. For example, Zotero is a free open source bibliographic management tool that you could also use. We've selected Refworks for various reasons, but you could also use Zotero or any other of the paid for tools like EndNote, and there's literally dozens of them out there. But Refworks is an example of a tool that is a bibliographic management system. The free open source one is Zotero, and there are others like EndNote. Anyways, so I already have a Refworks account because I've been here for a long time at Concordia, and I use a bibliographic management tool. If you go back to the library website, if you want to set up your own account so that you could start collecting these references and start generating your bibliographies automatically, you go to the library website, you go to the help and how to, and you have here the citing page. So if you want help citing, this is where we give you the link for Refworks. And notice that you have tutorials and help pages and all sorts of crazy things. And I've already logged on. I already have an account and all that, so I'm going to skip that part. That's pretty self-explanatory how to do that. So please go ahead and do it on your own. What I have done is I've already logged on, so I can go to the my search result page to the articles that I've selected in my folder, and then I can do an export to Refworks. And automatically off it goes to my Refworks account, which I'm already logged on, and it is importing those 4 references. And if I view my last imported folder, this is exactly the list of references that I want to include in my paper, right? And so what I could do here, for example, just to show you how useful this tool is, I could just create a bibliography here, and then I could select the APA, American Psychological Association, the 5th edition, although there is a 6th edition now. So I'm going to use the 6th edition, and I'm going to create the bibliography. And what it's telling me here is if I'm not redirected to my bibliography, there it is. So I could totally copy paste this. Now, why would I do a bibliography? Well, a bibliography is to indicate to your reader which sources you have used, right? So there are 2 ways to explaining why it's important to cite your sources. The first reason is if you don't do that, you get into trouble, right? It's called academic integrity, and really it's the ethics of doing research. You have to acknowledge the work done by others, and footnoting or referencing or creating a bibliography, all of these things are the same essentially, is a way to indicate to your reader that you're using other people's ideas. And this is related to ethics. This is related to making sure you don't steal. Right? So that the first reason is if you don't do it, you get into trouble. You can actually fail the paper or get into worse trouble with the academic office of your department. Anyways, but I don't like that reason because that's the stick reason. You know, if you don't do it, you get hit by a stick. I prefer the carrot reason. Now, the second reason is you do this to signal to your professor that you've done your job, right? Your professor can look at your bibliography and know from the get-go if you've just used Google to grab whatever random websites to create your paper, which is a bad thing to do, or if you actually have engaged with the tools from the library and tools from authoritative websites like government pages, and you could see that in your bibliography. If your professor sees news items, trade publication articles, and scholarly articles, a mix of all those in your bibliography, they know you've done your job. They know that you've proactively researched and provided trustful evidence in your paper. So that's the better reason to do a bibliography, so that you can get a good grade. And it's actually super easy once you figure out how to use bibliographic management software like Refworks. Now, here's another thing that you could do. If you look at one of these articles, I was looking at, let me just close that. If you look at one of these articles, let's say the first one here, so I can click and get the full text from this page because Concordia has prepaid the copyright for you to read, so it's free. And by the way, never pay for an academic article, ever, 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 because you get everything for free. Contact the Ask a Librarian service if ever you hit a paywall. But so if I want to click on this and see here, and I want to talk about job crafting, that's actually something that I want to discuss in my paper because it deals with motivation issues and all that. And I really like this definition of what job crafting is. And I want to copy paste that into my paper. So copy pasting is super easy. You know, you could just copy and then paste. Of course, I always do a paste special to get rid of web formatting in my paper. And you do that by getting to this like little arrow version here and doing a paste special. And of course, you know, nobody would know that this came from a paper if I leave it like that, right? Nobody knows that I read this other academic source that these researchers have written to talk about the results of their experiment or their study or whatever it is they did in a very formal way. this is actually stealing if I do it like that. This is an offense of the academic code of conduct. So what do? It's very simple. Use these little gizmos here called quotes. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. And notice here that what I had in my text is according to Nissen, Wesseler, and Kostova. This is to indicate to my reader that this is a direct quotation from my source. And actually, I would need to add in APA the year, and I think that was pretty recent, 2016, right? And then I do the colon thing. And actually, it's a good idea to just kind of shift that on the side just to help people read that. And there you're done, right? So this is an example of quoting a direct quotation from a paper. And this is how you do it. It's very simple. And once you're done, if you do, once you include your bibliography, right, you can go back to the Refworks output and copy paste that. Copy and paste that, and voila, you've actually indicated that, actually I'm going to keep it as formatted text because I want to keep the italics. And of course, you may have to do a little bit of tweaking, like for example, what they like to do is to have a hanging indent, and you would need to show the ruler, and I'm not going to do all of that. But anyways, the point here is you may have to do a bit of editing still just to make it look pretty, which is fine. But the point here is notice how I have the author's names and the date. This is how you can discover this source, because this is how you find it in your bibliography, by indicating to your reader that these are the authors that wrote this. And so this is a way to keeping the referencing active. Now, the other thing that you could have done is you could have paraphrased in your own words the words or the text written by these other researchers. If you do that, it is imperative that you also quote. Again, for the two reasons. The stick is, if you don't, and your professor discovers that you've lifted ideas from another person's work or another person's paper, you can get in trouble, academic offense, plagiarism, that kind of stuff, really bad stuff. That's the stick excuse. And of course, the carrot excuse is you've done all the work. You might as well show your professor that you've quoted from a paper, which is indicating that you've done it properly and you've done all the steps required to get a good grade, right? So yes, you would do the same thing. So for example, I would say here, instead of according to Nissen, 2016, and the bibliographies here, instead of doing that, I would get rid of this full citation, and I would say something like, according to these people, what I would do is take out this. I would maybe start with these. So I would say something like identify. They are calling it job crafting as a way to boost motivation. Now, this is an example of paraphrasing, and notice that I still need the reference to the original paper. If I say this, right? If I just say job crafting is a way to boost motivation, that claim is baseless. There's no basis to it. There's no reference to it. But if I go back to the way with this, then this is actually a paraphrasing, but I'm quoting my source, so that I'm indicating that I'm basing this affirmation, this sentence, on research done by these other researchers, and I still provide the footnote in my paper. So for paraphrasing, for putting in your own words the research of others and the thoughts of others, you still need to have the referencing part on top in your textual part of your paper, as well as the actual footnote in your bibliography. That's how you paraphrase correctly. So a couple of last points, closing items in this case. If ever you find that you have a problem using Refworks, finding the right words to put into a system, or you're just curious about the tools that you're using and what they cover and how to best use them, always, always, always consider using the live chat that we have on our website. And if you click here, it actually tells you how to connect with a librarian. And I prefer that students use the Ask a Librarian service because you get immediate help. Like I may be on vacation or it may be the weekend, and we actually have people working nights and weekends to help you out if you use the Ask a Librarian service. Me, Olivier, sometimes get a day off and, go home at night to be with the kids and that kind of stuff. And so this is really the best way for you to get help, is to use the Ask a Librarian service for immediate assistance. The other thing I wanted to mention, just to reiterate, that we do have under citing in the APA format, we do have a citing business databases in APA format page. So this is giving you an example of how to cite from all these different tools and sources that we have at the library. The other thing I wanted to mention is under help and how to, under subject and course guides, please use the business research portal, which is right here, also linked from your Moodle classes in the library block, so that you could find the best databases that we prepay for you to use for free, right? So databases like IBIS World and Passport give you tons of information that is extremely hard or almost impossible to find on the free web. No matter of Googling will give you the amount of evidence that you get from these and other sources that we have. And you can also connect with my other training videos to discover on your own what else you can get from the library, as well as, contact information and other types of things like that. So I hope that you now feel more empowered to use the different databases and tools in the library so that you can get the best grades that you can.